Hey, I just thought I would show you some stuff. I'm preparing for a sale in my Diamond Members group. Now, what that means is I create original pieces of artwork, and instead of them going up to my website, they go to a special group called the Diamond Members, who over the years have been the core of people who have been excited about my work and have asked me, how could I know when you're making something new and it's up for sale, because by the time I notice it on Facebook or whatever, it's gone already, and I wanted to know. So we created this little group, and they always get first dibs. Now, of course, they are such a wonderful, enthusiastic group, and I don't make as many pieces as I would like, so usually they buy everything. So if you're interested in my original art, there's two things you can do. Obviously, the first is to join the Diamond Members group, and there'll be a link in the description, and that's just over at my website. And then the other one is that I do, on my website, sometimes put limited editions of things. So I'll make a prototype, and then you can buy one of those, and I'll make some for a limited amount of time. Okay, so anyway, that was the commercial. So now I wanted to just kind of show you some of the things that I am working on for the next Diamond Dibs sale that I have coming up. So I'm making this in April, and this is going to be a sale here just in a few days. So this, I thought I'd show you first. These are a little bit weird because there's a couple things I do. As I am creating pieces for projects and for my creative circle and for other things, then I have finished items. Those always kind of get set aside for the sale. But then sometimes I make original things, and just because I'm feeling like it, and other times I recycle things that I have made previously into something new. These are one of those. So I had a storage unit of stuff when I moved, and everything was in storage during COVID, and finally uncovered it all and went through all the stuff. And one of the things that I found was something that I had made a decade ago, and these were all tiny little polymer clay sculptures with lots of detail on them that I had made as originals to be cast in metal for a series of pendants, which I did, and that's been a long time. I don't have any of those pendants anymore, but it was such a fun little series. But they're very small and intricate. And the thing is that I just made them out of one solid color of clay. So sometimes it was green, sometimes white, yellow, whatever. Just whatever color was handy at the time. So then I had all these lovely little sculptures, but they were not in good colors. So I thought, well, what can I do? Some of the details were so intricate, so that I figured the best thing I could do is sort of create kind of like a glaze over the top, which I did with a clear satin glaze, and then add some color. So this builds up over time as I'm putting layer after layer after layer of color. So what I do is I mix up some of that clear, and you can see the remnants here, the clear glaze with pan pastels to create myself like these little palettes of color. And the reason I'm doing that instead of like using acrylic paint is because acrylic paint, although it's compatible with polymer clay, it has a tendency to sort of peel off the surface over time. Now, these are not going to be pendants to be worn. I'm going to turn these into mosaics, but I wanted the coloration on there to, number one, sort of look like glaze on a ceramic, and number two, be really well attached, not just a sort of surface skin. So once I put the glaze on, then I can build up layer after layer. So you see what I've done here. So there was a series of steampunk items, some flowers, and then a horse for some reason. Anyway, so here's what I've got. So now what I'll do is I'll take each one of these little guys, and I will create a mosaic background using epoxy clay, which is something I do all the time, and just turn each one of these into a little scene. So this is going to be a fun thing that will be in the sale. Now, I often recycle, as I mentioned, recycle things that I've done for classes and demonstrations and such. This was a little demonstration I was showing my Creative Circle membership group on, it was the Creative Nurture Day. So you've heard me talk about that perhaps. This is something I do a couple of times or more a year, where we just get together for a day and we sort of nurture our creativity by talking and chatting and having a space where you can work on stuff that you've already done, but have some interaction at the same time. So I showed them how to make this little quick and easy butterfly veneer, because it's a fun little get your creativity started activity. And then I took this one and just created a partial frame around it. And I got halfway done because that's the amount of epoxy clay I had left in that particular session of mixing up epoxy clays. And I just sort of went, hey, I kind of like it with one side exposed. I don't even know why. So then I'll add like a little hanger on the back and it'll be a mini wall piece. But this one was another one that I did at the same time. So I had one to show them and then one we did together during the live chat. And I left this one on its background. This one I cut out. Now I had previously made this little piece, but the way the flower was up at the top was kind of dorky and I didn't like it. So I liked most of this one, but then I thought, hey, this will be the perfect spot to add this butterfly that I just made and a little cluster of flowers. So you can kind of see how sometimes I've got little bits and pieces and then they become more things. So this one is the same kind of thing. One of the demonstrations that I showed somewhere along the way was how to make this kind of mosaic out of polymer clay. So I had, again, as I usually do, I do one as a prototype so I can show people what's coming, and then, you know, we do the other one together in the live chat or the demo or whatever. So I thought, well, I want to make this into a scene. I could make 2 brooches out of it, but they feel like they needed to live together, and I prefer making wall art. That is my absolute favorite. So all I did then is put these on. So they're all on an epoxy clay background. So I created an epoxy clay, and this isn't to show you how to do all this stuff, just to talk about it, background, and then I add my polymer pieces and then I start just building. So my thought was, let's do like sort of almost like a golden frame and then fill the rest in. I use a lot of real gold stuff. So all of this is 24 karat gold leaf. Most of these beads are 24 karat gold coated. And then there's other little like lesser golds, 18 and 22 carats, you know, just to make the variety of gold tones. And then there's things like chalcedony in there and some carved shell flowers, blah, blah, blah. So lots of nifty little things. And again, this will also be a wall piece. All right, so what else have I got here? Let's continue to talk about using up things that were made previously. So I did this for no real reason. I was doing a bunch of Instagram posts. I think it was probably being a guest on the Sculpey website, or maybe just I was doing some for my own, but I felt like I did it for then and just kind of showing how to do this. And I really liked how this little cluster turned out, but I didn't do anything with it. You know, so when I get started on something like this for sale, I drag out all of my stuff that I've got lying around and I see which one's talking to me today. And this one was. So I've combined this with a broken piece of dichroic glass that I got some mysterious place, which I really love. And then it's just a matter of sort of matching up the colors and finding what else I've got lying around that go with it. These are little fragments of Marcia Neal's ceramic pendants and such. So I have some seconds from her that I was able to purchase and then break up and use as I wish. This is an antique button. There are some silver buttons in here. Another one of those carved flowers, this time out of a black mother of pearl. And then, of course, just, you know, seed beads that tie it all together. What is this? Heck if I know. It's something that you put on your wall and you look at and you smile. And those are the kinds of things that I like making. Useless things that are just pretty. So this one was really fun. So I made this little dragon guy, and probably around that same time I was showing, you know, what could I do next with it. And I was putting some little bits of these Marini glass pieces, which I got from Christy over at Northwest Glass and Glassworks, and you know, I thought, okay, when I do put this together in something, we're gonna have to use some of those lovely little flower Marini glass pieces that she makes. But then I found this little carved shell. It was an earring, so I've got another one lying around here somewhere, but I thought, well, let's just put this on here, and I wanted it to go downhill so it'd be stable here, hence the angle, and to attach it here, I kind of built up a little bit of epoxy clay with some crystals on it, because I thought that looked great. And then I just went nuts. So I had an old necklace where I had used a ton of rubies and tanzanite, so it's got some precious goodies in here, more of that, you know, 24 karat gold covered beads there, and then a bunch of aquamarine chips, opal chips, and this is opal potch, which is the sort of the matrixy, maybe it's not matrix, but it's like what opal would be if it didn't have the fire in it. And there's a little bit of fire in some of them, but it's just sort of that milky opalescent rock that occasionally will have fire in it, but sometimes is sort of just, you know, I got it in Australia. When you're looking for opal, sometimes you get the sort of dud ones, but they're still pretty cool. So anyway, put this all together. So I think I love doing stuff like this where I've got a central piece. I'm just going to put stuff around it, but then I kind of make some sort of a little flow with my long strands of beads. I feel like that adds a nice little bit of movement and sort of continuity to the thing. So I like this one. This one I think turned out kind of fun. All right, so there's one more series of stuff I want to show you. Is another thing I love doing is making these little cabochons out of gold. So what I do is whenever I'm using epoxy clay, I'll mix up what I think I'm going to need, right? And I always mix up more than I need because I hate getting almost done and then I run out, right? So I make more than I need, and then at the end what I have is a blob left over, right? So I flatten that out into some form. Sometimes it's got more dimension to it, other times it's just a flat oval or a round or a heart or whatever, and then I cover it with 24 karat gold leaf and let it dry. So then I've got all these little golden shapes, and I'll go with my tool. I use my Wow It's Awesome tool. You can also get that on my website, so the website link will be there in the description. But I take my tool here because it's got a kind of curved claw, and I will scratch through the 24 karat gold leaf to expose the black epoxy clay underneath, and I will create these little line drawings. And then I just try to figure out what sort of setting would these line drawings look most exciting in. So this one was fun. Seahorse, I love ocean creatures. I live here in Maui, so I've always loved the ocean, but more so than ever now. And I had this beautiful oyster. So when my brother and I go snorkeling, there's a lot of octopus in the waters out here, and they eat shellfish, among other things. And so you can always kind of tell when an octopus has been feeding because there'll be just a scattering of sea urchin shell bits and oyster shell bits and all that stuff as he's just kind of moved through and eaten his stuff. And starfish, I think, sometimes eat the oysters as well. But we came across like a freshly devoured pile of oyster shell. So this is one from one of our snorkel adventures, and I just love it. It's a black-lipped oyster, so you can see that graduation of the gray nacre to this lovely kind of rainbow blackish outer edge, which I love. And I thought, well, this will be just a fun little display for this piece. So I did that and added, some other things to set it off. This one, I like heart shape, so I just made like a little heart shape and added my little cabochon and then just kind of fancied it up. I had some carved jade flowers and some dagger beads, etc. Just to make that little shape. And these will all be wall pieces. This one I loved. Here's some more of that murrain. Now I sell these little bits of murrain in sets on my site. Like I said, I get them from my friend Christy, and she just makes these gorgeous little cane slices. And there's quite a difference in look. These are the same flowers here. And it's quite a difference in what it looks like on a white background versus a black background. They're both lovely. They're just different, so I like experimenting around with that. And then, of course, I add all these other beads. So I kind of wanted to make this look like just a bouquet of growing things that, the little bee would be kind of off in search of nectars and such. This one is a piece of zebra wood I picked up in Australia. I don't think that's a native Australian wood. It may be. I'm not sure. But I was at somewhere and they had wood scraps, and so I picked this up, and it was in my stash. I thought, oh, well, this will be the perfect thing for this sort of woodsy kind of fern little thing here. And I picked up some glass leaves once upon a time from someone that I can't remember now, or I would give them credit, and I honestly don't remember where I got those, but it worked out good. And then the last thing is I have a potter here on island that I saw their work and asked him if they ever have any broken ones and could I buy his shards, because he did raku pottery, and I was able to get some of these nifty raku shards. And then this is a little lizard, and I thought I'd combine that with some vintage glass things, as well as those. I just love those little dagger beads. And then there's several carved stone and cabochon stone stuff and some porcelain stuff too. So all in all, just kind of makes these interesting scenes. So all of these will get a hanger on the back so that they could be hung up on the wall, and you can just look at them because that's what I like to do. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of how I work and what I do. And a lot of times this is my process, or I'm either, repairing or fixing something from what it was used for into something new, or I am creating something entirely new, or I am finding a new way to use something that I had in a demonstration. But anyway, so here is some of the stuff that if you are a Diamond member, before the sale goes on, you'll have a chance to grab some of these goodies. And if not, well, you may want to think about it because, I love the idea that something that I made that gave me pleasure and enjoyment in the creativity goes out to someone else who can look at it and just have fun every time they see it and smile and enjoy the hopefully the artistry of it. Okay, that's all. Bye.